Hello, YouTubers. Well, I'm out. I'm outside today, out of doors. I'm on a little walk in the near surroundings where I live. Uh, Apart from the fact that it's quite a nice day today, now in the spring, early April, I thought also it would be a good idea to check something that I've been thinking about for some time, and that is the fact that we used to have a record company here in the near neighborhoods. I'm in Skärholmen, southwest of Stockholm, and there was a record company here for a couple of years in the late 60s called Discofon, Discofon, and it was run by a man called Lennart Landegren. From all the googling, I found out that he passed away in 2000, and that he was mainly based in Bromma, which is, well, you can't see, but it's on the other side of Lake Mälaren. So, but I happen to know from the from the two older albums I have on this label, it says that the record company is based here in Skärholmen at Sätra 24. And I'm going to see if I can find that actual house where they all had their their production. Yeah, so that's where I'm going now. Let's see if I find it. Well, I found it. This is where it was. The basement of this White House. Today it's a daycare center. So, yeah, the idea of today's hike was to find the home of Discofon, and here it is. Right. I thought that I only had 3 issues on the Discofon label, but I found out now that I have 4, and it is I would guess that the first issue had number 5001, because the oldest one I have is this compilation, Skandinaviens bästa popdansorkester, the best pop dance orchestras of Scandinavia, and it has the number DELP 5002, but this has been pasted over, so it's DILP 5002, and I have no idea why this is the case. I have no idea why this camera refuses to focus on me. Focus now. Okay, never mind. And this is quite interesting, because really the orchestras on this album weren't connected to the Discofon label. We have Göran Zetterlund, who was on the Svensk American label that was run by Larry Finnegan. Beatmakers, I think they were on Kupol, same with Telstars. And I don't know that much about Sven Miller, the Danish orchestra leader, or Kjell Carlsen. I think he was Norwegian. So I guess this was some sort of getting the label started issue, and I think we have live recordings from, let's see now, what did it say? Yeah, it's recorded on Baldakinen in Stockholm, so we talk about live recordings here. Right, so this was what the label looks like. Fairly typical design of a Swedish record label of the late 60s. Both Metronome and Polar had labels that looked a bit like this, but in different colors, of course. The other records I have is this record with the dance band Tore Kalmar. They were quite popular in Stockholm, and they played for many years, although they didn't have that many big hits during their days, so to speak, although in later years they had a bit of a novelty hit with one of their old singles that they made in the early 70s, but that has nothing to do with this issue. Then we have Kjell Öhman, who played with Telstar's. This is a record with organ jazz. Kjell Öhman is still quite active now and then. See him on television. And this is probably the most sought after issue. It's the first album that the Swedish answer to Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66 issued, Hålligång med gimmicks. And this was later issued with a new sleeve on Philips in the early 70s after they had their big breakthrough. This was their first album, and they would become very big, but it would take some years and some issues. So, yeah, those are the ones I have. I don't know the first one in this issue, or whether there were any DELP 5006. There might have been, but I'm sure somebody out there knows more about that. Well, the Discofon label was very short-lived, because the earliest issues I think are from 1967-68, and the last sign, any live sign from the record label, was that the fact that the Kjell Öhman record was issued in 1970, or maybe it was a reissue, I'm not really sure there. So, but after that, don't know really what happened to Discofon. Well, I know that the widow of Lennart Landegren died in 2000. His widow gave all the material connected to the label Discofon to the National Library of Sweden, who keeps track of all, well, they have a big Swedish media database too, searchable online. And that's more or less all I know, because I haven't found that many traces of what happened to, well, Lennart Landegren or the record label Discofon, other than there's no sign of it after the year 1970, as far as I've been able to find out. So it was a short experiment, and even though they weren't that successful when it comes to record sales and hits and so on, they managed to record some really good records for the short time the record label existed. So hats off for Discofon and the late Lennart Landegren.